Okay, we'll be starting soon. Bearded Weatherman, we're here to talk about Hurricane Lee tonight. If you're watching live, or if you're watching later, go ahead and leave a comment. We're on YouTube now, so go ahead and comment on YouTube if you're watching live. Comment on Facebook. Let me know where you're watching from. I want to get an idea of where, we want to focus in on impacts for your area. And we'll be getting started soon. Just waiting to see if we got a few more people joining in. Alrighty. Let's get started. Let's bring the music down here. Welcome to the Bearded Weatherman. How's everybody doing out there? Hope you're doing well. Hope everybody made it through Hurricane Idalia okay, and there weren't any real impacts to your area. So hopefully that's the case. As always, if you like what you're seeing, go ahead and leave a like on the video. Go ahead and share it with friends. Subscribe on YouTube if you want to use that YouTube app on your smart TV. You can see the whole thing a lot easier. Maybe get. I use a lot of images. I draw, so that might be easier for you. You can kind of sit back on your couch and relax and watch some Bearded Weatherman. All right. If you're looking to support the page, you can always send some stars my way. That's should be there in the comments. So that's always greatly appreciated. I've had people ask me about how to support the page. That's a great way. Also, I do have a PayPal set up. If you're looking for the link for that, it is in the Bearded Weatherman, or pardon me, the Bearded Dragons group. It's pinned to the top, I believe. So if you want to support the page that way, that's always nice. It's totally secure. So okay, that's enough of that up front. All right, let's talk about Hurricane Lee. That's the major headline right now as far as weather is concerned. So let's look out here in the Atlantic, and obviously you can probably spot this pretty easily. Here is Hurricane Lee, way out there in the Atlantic right now. And I just heard the ding for someone sending stars my way, and it looks like it's Jillian. Jillian, thank you so much. Bravo Zulu. I want to highlight the fact that Jillian is a major supporter of this page, and she is asking everyone to go ahead and send some stars to support the page. Again, that is always appreciated. Okay, so thank you, Jillian. Bravo Zulu to you. And every week I'm going to go ahead and highlight who the major supporters are for the page, and kind of give you that recognition that you deserve for helping me out here to support the page. We want to get this information out to the folks who need it the most, that are going to be in the path of these storms. So obviously they're gonna want that information. And so again, go ahead and like the video. Go ahead and share with friends. Go ahead and comment. Let me know where you're watching from tonight. All that helps get the page out there in the algorithm or whatever. If you're on YouTube, you can super chat your support, or subscribe and like those videos on YouTube. Let's see. Yeah. So again, here is Hurricane Lee, now a dangerous Category 4 storm. Let me get my pin up here. You can clearly see it out there. Monster storm out there in the Atlantic. Nice eye feature to it. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on this in a moment. Looks like we got some more stars getting sent. And they're once again by Jillian. Jillian, thank you so much. She wants to start a star party, so if you want to support the page, please do send some stars my way. That's always appreciated. Bravo Zulu, as we used to say in the Navy. One more thing before we get started on Lee. I just want to highlight something. This is the website for the Fleet Weather Center in Norfolk, Virginia. This is where I worked when I was in the Navy. I served in the Navy for a few years. And this is their page that we would maintain. You see a surface analysis here. You also see forecast charts that are showing you different areas where ships might be impacted. So I always talk about my resume up front because I've noticed a lot of new viewers, or I should say a lot of new supporters of the page, a lot of people coming on, obviously because of these hurricanes we've been experiencing. We usually get, at this time of year, we get more and more followers and light on this page. So you may not be familiar with my background, but I'm a Navy veteran. I served at the Fleet Weather Center. At that time, it was called something different. That's really not that important. But we would, our primary mission was to route ships at sea around weather. Also to do forecasts for different bases across the northern hemisphere. Basically, all the way from over here in Corpus Christi, Texas. Well, it's a little bit further south, but Naval Air Station Corpus Christi, all the Gulf of Mexico, or GOMEX as we called it, the tropical Atlantic. So we had to deal with tropical meteorology, severe weather, because we covered everything east of the Mississippi, all the North Atlantic. So of course that meant all those major winter storms you see in the winter. We covered Rota, Spain over here. It's a base in Spain, obviously, all into the Mediterranean, which you can't see on this image, and all the way down into the South Atlantic. So all these different climate zones we had to monitor, as that was our area of operations, or AOR. Everything's got an acronym in the Navy. So again, I always throw my resume out there. This is my background, and currently I work for an airline doing the meteorology briefings and planning. I'm out here in Salt Lake City now. I'm a native of Florida, so this may be all new or all information you've heard 1,000 times if you're a follower of this page for quite a while. But again, I always like to just highlight that so you see this see what I'm talking about and some of my opinions and meteorological reasoning, and you don't think, well, who is this guy? What the heck does he know about this? So in any case, that is my my background and resume. All right, that is definitely plenty on that. So thank you. Angelica, pardon me, is checking in, saying hi everyone. So again, you can leave a comment. I'll go ahead and mention it on the page, or mention it in the video, and you know, get you know, if you have questions or whatever, go ahead and leave those questions in the chat. Levi saying, hey everyone, what's up, Bearded Weatherman? Hope all is well with everyone, and certainly we hope that too, Levi. Thank you. All right. So again, thank you so much for those stars and the support, Jillian. As I'm going to highlight those who support the page. They're the biggest supporters of the page every week, as they certainly deserve that recognition. All right, that's enough of that. I do want to. Okay, one more thing, one more housekeeping item, and we will get to Lee, because I know you have questions and concerns. I've noticed I put out a post earlier on the main page, and I just kind of wanted to get a sense of where everybody's at in the country, or wherever. And I know there's a few people down in the Caribbean, Central America, I've seen, as far as supporters of the page. So the Bearded Weatherman has experienced a tremendous amount of growth in the 3 years now that I've been doing this, ever since I was quarantined during the pandemic, and I was bored, and I said, I can do this too. I saw a few weather pages out there. Mike's weather page, great page, definitely a big supporter of Mike and what he does. But in any case, I said I could probably contribute a little bit to this whole thing, and I know I'm rambling, but long story short, to get to the point, I will eventually. I want to start doing more daily videos. I want to start getting more information out as far as more and more meteorology for folks that aren't just in Central Florida, who aren't just in the Southeast and the Gulf Coast, of course, who definitely are mainly the bulk of the supporters I have for this page. I want to start doing more regional breakdowns, a little more weather for different parts of the country, as I saw that I have some followers and supporters throughout this country of ours. I'm located in Salt Lake City, so I want to do more weather for some of those areas, and I know I've talked about it before, but because that requires a lot more information in a more compressed time period, I'll probably start green screening a little bit and doing more of your traditional weatherman stuff. But I'm not losing the beard, and you're certainly not going to see me in a suit and a tie. That's the caveat. All right, I've got all that out of the way. Those are just some exciting new things that are going to be coming online for the Bearded Weatherman. Checking in on the comments real quick. Jillian says, what will calm Lee down? Almost 4. So it's actually forecast to become a 5. We're going to look at that in a second. All right, here's Lee. Okay, what will calm Lee down? Great question. Not much. Not much is the answer. There's a big ridge on top of Lee. That usually means light upper level winds, low wind shear. So that's not going to really cause anything. You don't really see any major troughing. So troughing is associated with higher upper level winds, and you don't see that really. You see, you see the major long wave trough over here over the eastern U.S., but obviously you can see that's quite a ways from Lee. Now that is going to come into play at some point to change the track of Lee. We're going to talk about that in a little while. I've been posting about Lee and some of the model runs and my opinions and my thoughts on Lee, but we'll get to that in just a second. But you notice the major trough, the long wave trough, way off away. There's a little bit of troughing up here, but that's again way far away from Lee. So there's not a whole lot to stop it, and we'll look at the forecast in a second and kind of give you a sense of what that all means. But you're just not seeing a whole lot that's there to stop this storm. The other thing, of course, that is important for tropical systems is, we all kind of know this probably, but is very warm water, right? Now you notice here, this is our ocean heat content map. This is now we all know that the water temperatures are very warm out there in the Atlantic. In fact, they're above average for this time of year. But what we want to see as meteorologists, it's really more of a critical factor for the intensification of a hurricane or any tropical storm is high areas of ocean heat content. Ocean heat content, A lot of you have heard me talk about this many times and probably have heard it on other pages. But ocean heat content is the first 100 meters, the top layer of the ocean surface, 300 feet, and how uniform that warm water is. Like how far down, what's the depth of that very warm water to feed those hurricanes. It's sort of the rocket fuel for hurricanes. And as you can see here, any red shade here, right, is going to be very high ocean heat content. Obviously, you see a tremendous amount for the Caribbean and the loop current here in the Gulf. So we'll, of course, be monitoring those areas. At this point, I don't see any threats in those areas. But, again, we're right in the peak time period for hurricane season, and I'll show it. I've shown it 1,000 times. I'll show it again. This is the time of year, of course. Where is it at? There it is. This is from NOAA. You see here, the National Hurricane Center, and they've tracked over a period of 100 years the number of storms and the time period in which they formed. So the frequency of storms for a given period of time. And this is called climatology, right? Looking at a long period or long duration span as far as the weather. And you notice it's very clear that at this time of year, which is we're almost to September 10th, right there, the by far the most activity is occurring in this time period, right? Hurricanes and tropical storms, so those are in the red, so that's both, and hurricanes also, right? So by far the highest number, the highest frequency of tropical systems is definitely going to be in this time of year, right? We all know this, being in the southeast probably. We know that most of the major hurricanes and most of those impacts, in fact, we saw Idalia was only, a week or two, a week now, I guess. But you notice in that climb is going on right at that time when Idalia formed, right? So, again, this is the time of year. It's normal to see this many storms. National Hurricane Center has sort of updated, or I should say, Climate Prediction Center had updated it back about in July, the number of storms that we were going to see, and we're right on track with about that number of storms. See if I can't pull up that real quick, just show you kind of where we're at in the scoreboard, and we're going to talk about Lee just a little bit, and give you more of a opportunity to see my thoughts and what impacts we might see for that storm. So here we go. Let's put this up here. Now, again, if you're new to the page, you're unfamiliar with what I do here, I do not do a real surface level discussion. What I'm doing is a behind the scenes type of discussion. So your meteorologist on TV, your meteorologist at the National Weather Service, the Weather Channel, of course, anything for broadcast, anything for TV is going to be in real quick, short 5-minute segments. Well, that's not what I do here. At some point, I'll probably condense this a little bit more when I just start doing maybe more green screen, but that'll be more for just regional breakdowns, and then I'll probably sit down and maybe show you, well, I may continue to stand, doesn't matter. I'll continue to show you a lot of this information. We'll figure that out, that format. But here is their outlook from the Climate Prediction Center. So, of course, they monitor the climate. Here it is for 10th of August, so not that long ago, about a month ago. And here is their outlook. 14 to 21 named storms, which includes the 5 named storms recorded thus far in 2023. I'm going to go ahead and get the wiki up for this hurricane season. I want to give you kind of a scorecard on where we are this year as far as how they're doing on that forecast. Generally pretty good, by the way, I will say. So here we go. They're predicting 14 to 21, which was 5 up to that point I don't know if that's up until now or up until August. So here's 14 total. Okay, so where's my? Here we go. This is the seasonal. Where's my freaking? Come on, y'all. 14 depressions, 14 storms, which I believe include the hurricanes. This is confusing, I've got to tell you. 14, let's see. All right. 13 tropical cyclones, all of which became named storms. Pretty impressive. They've predicted 14, so we're now at that low end. That's pretty impressive. All of the depressions have become named storms. 13. Okay, 13. So well, that says 14. Anyway, this wiki. With 3 becoming major hurricanes and 4 becoming hurricanes. So almost all of the hurricanes have become major hurricanes. Let's see where we're at in that. 6 to 11. So we're almost there as far as their low end. 2 to 5 major hurricanes. We've already hit that. So all right. Just to say that so far the National Weather Service, the Climate Prediction Center, which is under NOAA, has nailed it so far. So of course we still have a long time until hurricane season is over. I see more stars coming my way. Looks like Jillian is just like really wanting to support the page tonight. Bravo Zulu to you, Jillian. Thank you for your support over the years. And so again, Bravo Zulu, as we said in the Navy, whenever we were congratulating somebody or somebody did something good, we would say Bravo Zulu to you. All right. So I'm kind of jumping around. Let's look at Lee right now up close. Here's the satellite. Very well-defined eye feature. There it is. Cloud-free for the most part. So this is a very powerful Category 4 hurricane as of the last time I looked. Let's see if we've got an update yet. So right now, as of the 5 p.m. advisory, 130 mile per hour Category 4 storm. When we're looking at Category 5, we need to see 156 miles per hour plus. Now that is, and we'll talk about this forecast track in just 1 second. That is a 156 miles per hour is the Category 5, and that is currently the forecast. So for tomorrow, by tomorrow, they do expect a Category 5 major hurricane, which is a very rare hurricane. We have not had any Cat 5 storms in the Atlantic as of this year. We can go back and look at the last year. I don't even know if we had any last year, 2022. Hurricane season, yeah. Wiki, okay, let's get that up. Here we go. See if we saw any last year, because I don't know. Okay, yeah, Ian. Well, many of us remember that in the state of Florida. Only Category 5 this season. So again, very rare to see a Category 5 hurricane. And we'll talk about potential impacts here very shortly, because I know that's why you're here. I know you want to get that information. So let's look at this. This is as of a few hours ago, the 5 p.m. Atlantic Standard Time. That's would be 4 p.m. on the East Coast. And as you can see, major hurricane, we're already there. So they do forecast that. Expect this cone to avoid, thankfully, the Leeward Islands here, and also the Greater Antilles here, these areas. So, by the way, if you need a primer on what these, when I throw out geographic terms, and I posted about this last night with a with a graphic and a map. It's something we had to. It was an emphasis for us as meteorologists in the Navy, because in all meteorologists, because we have to describe the areas that we're talking about, like where are the storms at, where are they moving, and so a strong knowledge of geography is important for meteorology and important for our discussions here. But good news, because I've been posting about this storm for a week now, maybe it's probably been more than a week, saying that this is a possible threat, to the Leeward Islands, to the Caribbean. And one more aside on that note. So I know most of you are going to only care if these storms impact you where you're at, right? Central Florida being the area where a lot of the people that support this page are located, other parts of the Southeast. So you may think, oh, he's posting about threats to the Caribbean. Who cares, right? Well, people live there, and there's actually a few followers for the page that are in these areas. So, also another accusation that's made a lot to a certain weather pages, and I'll mention Mike's weather page as being probably the biggest target for these, what I consider asinine and idiotic accusations of hyping. Mike has a huge following, and I'm not going to sit here and kiss up to Mike too much, but he's the Papa Bear. He's the inspiration for why I started doing this, because I thought, I like the kind of format he does, and it's kind of casual, and he likes to involve people that are in the chats and people who follow the page, and obviously you don't see that on your local news. They're not going to call out comments from their viewers. They're that's just not what they do, right? So anyway, he has a huge following, and he has people in these areas that watch his page, and they're obviously going to be concerned about the threats to their area. So I'm just going to, again, weigh in on that accusation of hyping. It's really stupid. Now, that being said, hyping does occur, and it does get clicks and views. So if I have a strong instinct or gut feeling that it's not going to be a threat based on not just raw instinct or gut feelings, I'll look at the models. I'll look at the longer range models, and I'll tell you if I think that's going to be the case. Of course, it always needs to be taken with a grain of salt, and you always should continue to monitor the National Weather Service and National Hurricane Center for their forecasts. But if I don't think it's going to be an issue for the U.S., especially because that's where most people are, or any of these islands in the Caribbean, I'm going to say so. All right, I'm not bound by the same sort of strictures or that broadcast TV meteorologists are, or the National Hurricane Center, who's very concerned about getting it wrong, because clearly they have a lot more people looking at their products and their forecasts, and the consequences could be quite extreme if they are wrong. So you should always take what I say with a grain of salt. But I do not just do this on instinct. I do use long-term modeling, ensemble modeling that I trust, and that has always really been accurate in order to come up with these opinions that I share on my page. And again, please, there are always going to be opinions, okay? But there is science behind them. All right, that being said, let me check the comments because I've been sort of ranting for a minute. Let's see. We've got a few comments tonight. Jillian says, I actually hate the word hype now. Yeah, it is. It's ignorance. You know, it's ignorance. Now, if you don't know what you're talking about, and you do post things like, I saw one comment a few nights ago where it was like, "There's going to be a hurricane in the Gulf in 1 week," and I'm like, "Where did you get that?" You know. So I deleted that comment, and I will not tolerate those sorts of things on the page. The Bearded Weatherman, Bearded Dragons group, you're free to post your opinions, but always understand if you are on that group, which is the private group for the page. If you're interested, it should be a link on the page itself. That's our look. You know, most of the followers of the page and the longtime supporters and weather junkies like me. If somebody posts an opinion in a chat or a post, again, that's their opinion. Okay, that is not my opinion. I post my opinions on the main page mostly. Sometimes I will come in and weigh in on certain things on the Bearded Dragons group. But again, I want you to keep that in mind. That's enough of that. All right, so look, you see the cone here, right? Cone of uncertainty, and you see, look at this cone, right? And if you plot the track, and I'm getting to a point here, you notice that by early next week, this is a what is it, a 7-day or 5-day? I think they started doing. They were doing 7 days. I don't know if they're doing 7 days anymore. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, this is a 5-day, right? No, it is a 7-day forecast. Goes out to Tuesday. Anyway, okay, it's a 5-day forecast. Forgive the Bearded Weatherman for being not the greatest at arithmetic. Okay, that is not my strong suit. Anyway, you notice the track, the center of the track, is going to aim right at. It aims right at Florida. Look at that. It aims right at the Bahamas, right? You see that? Look at that. It aims right at the Bahamas if you look at this cone. But don't forget that this cone is 5 days out, okay? So it's saying, well, maybe it goes this way, or maybe it goes this way, okay? That's still a long way from the state of Florida and a long way from the southeast, okay? So that's your ultra cautious National Hurricane Center forecast out to 5 days, out to Tuesday. Now, I don't just rely on this ultra conservative, cautious forecast track from the National Hurricane Center, okay? There are other models that we can look at that the National Hurricane Center certainly looks at too. But again, ultra conservative. They're going to want to be really cautious, and one of those is called the Ensemble Prediction Center, or Ensemble Prediction System. And just like it says, it's an ensemble. You know, you can think in a music group. That's a group of people, right, or a group of models in this case, and they're all running their different scenarios. Okay, and for the Ensemble Prediction System, again, this is the latest from this evening, or actually this afternoon, September 7th. That's today, right? And you notice, yes, okay, the cone goes here, right? That's your 5-day mark. There's your cone. That's what the National Hurricane Center is showing. But then after that, they show a recurve or curvature out to sea for longer term. This is a model that I have found to be very accurate for longer term forecasting. And what they do is basically they run all these models, and then in the very center of that model are all those. This is the spaghetti models, right? The different scenarios for the environment, for the atmospheric conditions that may occur at that time frame. Okay, and they'll game out. It's a probabilistic model, so it'll make probability forecasts based on what are the most likely scenarios for the atmosphere at that time. And the right down the middle, the AEMN, I'll actually zoom in on that so you can see it. Okay. See that AEMN is the American Ensemble, with also that includes the Canadian Ensemble here, CCEMN. So two different major global models, the American and the Canadian, forecasting the basically right down the center of this spaghetti track. See that? They also show, by the way, the black official forecast from the National Hurricane Center. See the black line up there? And you notice, again, like I was saying, it only goes out to here. It only goes out to here, right? To the right there. That's 5 days out. That's as far out as it goes. But then notice after that, it goes like this. Right? The cone sort of goes like that. Well, guess what? That cone they're using mirrors this modeling, doesn't it? See how the black line goes straight down the center? It's called the mean or the average of those different spaghetti models that are being run. But then after that, you notice the cone shifts out to C. So my prediction is tomorrow, that cone that you saw from the National Hurricane Center, again, ultra-conservative National Hurricane Center, is going to just subtly shift a little bit more that way. Maybe this part goes up a little bit more that way. Okay? Over the next day or two. That is not only my prediction, but my experience. Okay? Very, very highly likely that shift will occur out to sea on this cone track you see here on the National Hurricane Center. Now, when you look at the news, by the way, I'm going to take a sip of a little mineral water here. I didn't say isobars, but I'll say isobars if you guys want to have a little sip with me of mineral water from the Colorado Rockies. A little sudsy. There we go. Sorry, I got a little flavor saver here, so I could probably hear that on the microphone. Text, just making sure that that's nothing weather related, and it is not. But anyway, you'll see that cone shift is my prediction. Okay, let's look at one more thing. Two more things. How about that? Yeah, the next is going. What is this here? Yeah, we'll get rid of that one. Get rid of this one. That's your ensemble. Let's go. We already looked at ocean heat content. Now let's go to another ensemble model. So we just looked at the American and the Canadian ensemble models. Okay. Now let's look at the European ensemble models. For what is this? We want this cycle here. There we go. So this is the European Ensemble ECMWF, European Center for Medium Range Weather Forecasting. So this is a medium range model that goes out to 5 days. Okay, and it is run by the again ECMWF, European Center, etc., there in the UK. And you notice ensemble. So again, a number of different scenarios that it's running for this particular storm. Okay. And you notice the cone's pretty much shaped very similar to the American. And then the black line there is the mean or average of the tracks. So this is basically, that's the most probable scenario that's going to occur for Lee, according to the American and Canadian ensemble modeling and the European ensemble modeling at this point. So, in conclusion on Lee, which is, by the way, a beautiful storm, very, very beautiful hurricane, but thankfully my reasoning, my not just based on my opinion, but experience and the computer modeling that we're seeing now, is that this storm will track out to sea. Why will this storm track out to sea? Okay, here is that the answer to that. So let's look at, first off we saw, well here it is, there's a beautiful storm anyway. We saw this big trough over the U.S., okay? And as this trough continues to move west to east, which is how all weather moves 99% of the time in the northern hemisphere, in the mid-latitudes, is going to move out into the Atlantic, okay? And as it does that, this ridge that's been in place over Lee, which has allowed it to strengthen, very light upper level winds, and also has trapped this storm sort of on a west to northwesterly course. It's going to start to pick up this storm and carry it out to sea. Okay, and carry it out to sea just like the models are saying. These troughs are very potent. Look at how deep this trough is. Look at that. That's pretty potent. That's a high amplitude, long wave trough that will pick up a storm and move it out to sea. Now you're going to see this motion for the next few days. It's going to start to scare everybody because there's not a whole lot in place here. This is all ridging, high pressure that will not allow Lee to move further north. But once this little bit of troughing over here starts to pick it up, it's going to start to sort of track a little bit to the north west, okay? And then by the time this long wave trough moves in, it will then pick it up and move it out even further to sea. And that's not just based on the real-time satellite imagery, but also based on modeling. So I'll show you the ECMWF for this area. Here we go. We move forward in time. There's our storm continuing on. Like I said, in that sort of west-northwesterly track, right? A little bit of troughing, sort of picking it up. See that little bit of troughing right here? A little bit of real subtle troughing, sort of starting to pick it up, move it a little bit more towards the northwest, right? See that? Okay. Real subtle. See the real subtle troughing in here? See that? Real subtle. And pick it up, move it just a little bit to the northwest. Now, look at this. Look, did you see how dramatic that northward turn became? Look at this big trough now moving in. Just like I said, that long wave trough comes in, picks it up, and moves it out away from the U.S., potentially threatening Nova Scotia, maybe even, Maine. We'll see. This is pretty far out. So when we talk about 10 days out, we're going to take it with a grain of salt. But you notice that trough comes in and picks it up. See the big long wave trough here? See that U shape? That is what guides these hurricanes and moves them out to sea. If this long wave trough wasn't here, just like we saw with Idalia, then this storm would move more towards the U.S., okay? Now, this is not the same analog as Idalia. Idalia formed down here, right? And then it kind of moved up, and then a little bit of troughing moved in, moved it out. But this storm's different. This is out to sea already, and that motion, once that huge long wave trough comes in fact, this will probably even bring some cooler temperatures here to the central or mid-south down into the southeast. Not quite as much for Florida. Sorry, guys. We're not there yet. It's too early in the season. But maybe bring a little bit milder, cooler weather for, as you can see, the air sort of flowing down from the northwest. That's dry air. That's cooler air up from, up in these areas in Canada. That weather's going to move down in there. In any case, as far as our storm, it's going to pick up that storm and move it out to sea by next weekend. Okay? So those are the meteorological conditions that are governing the motion of this storm. And then, okay, the GFS, here it is. This is the American model. Again, moving, continuing like sort of west-northwest. Then there's that subtle trough that moves in. See that subtle trough there? Kind of picks it up, starts to move it north. And then continuing on, you see the big long wave trough. A little bit less deep than the Euro, but still on the Euro and moving it out to sea by next weekend, 16th of September. That's next Saturday, right? And there it is. Maybe impacting Nova Scotia as a very windy storm, but not really a traditional hurricane, so to speak, that would affect that would have the same effect as like a landfalling major hurricane. So they're quite used to stormy weather up there in Canada, in Nova Scotia, Newfoundland. Brandy says, what's going on behind Lee? Well, we'll look at the longer range. I got Jillian saying cheers to everybody, so let's go ahead and toast because I've been talking a lot. My voice is a little bit, my throat's getting a little dry. Elizabeth says, I'm a weather junkie. I've learned so much from you. It makes hurricane season so much better. Well, again, my page is a behind the scenes type of page, right? With some fun involved. I wear t-shirts. I don't shave. So not like the traditional news media, which unfortunately is basically not in total agreement with this system, but I understand why. The National Hurricane Center forces them, I shouldn't say forced, but basically forces them to follow what their forecast tracks look like. So it scares people. All right? Now, it's supposed to do the opposite. It's supposed to, well, it's my rant about the Hurricane Center. All right, look, these guys are all PhDs. All right, they're all expert tropical meteorologists, and believe me, they do know their stuff. Definitely don't want to criticize the performance of the National Hurricane Center. However, they're jealous of their what's the right word? They're jealous of their oversight, over tropical meteorology. This I definitely encountered in the Navy when we tried to maybe do our own sort of reasoning and thinking, but they would shut us down. And they certainly control what the broadcast meteorology departments do, and as far as the news channels do. Okay. So that being said, they can only put out like a short forecast cone because again they're paranoid of getting it wrong, and for good reason, and to some extent because a lot of people are looking at that information and making decisions, life and death decisions on it. But also, they're how do I put this? They have egos, and they don't want to be wrong. They don't want to be wrong. They want to keep their province over tropical meteorology. So, but what I can do is I can show you some of the information that is in my experience very reliable, and can kind of reassure you maybe as to what the longer term forecast is. Of course, again, it's my opinion based on computer modeling, based on my experience, which is now I've been doing this now for almost 20 years. So I've been doing it for a little while. I did it in the military with a larger area of operations. Then again, I hope I'm not sounding like I'm bragging, but it's true that our responsibility was for an area of the world that was very large, whereas your local weather channel, not to knock your local meteorologist, don't take it that way. They deal with a very small area, 50 square miles, 100 square miles. Of course, they'll deal with some of the regional weather, and they're going to know some of the national weather, but they've never heard of the Mistral in the Mediterranean. They've never heard of the Sirocco in the Middle East, North Africa. They've never dealt with those types of weather events in different climate zones that I was responsible for and was trained in. So, again, I don't know why I ranted on that particular subject, but I just want to assure you that I do have pretty extensive knowledge in this stuff. Of course, I'm never going to be perfect at it. I'm always learning. I'm always learning from mistakes I make and things like that. So, Amanda says, any chance of not turning away from Florida and continuing current track? No. And you're never going to hear a meteorologist give you that kind of definitive answer. But the reality is this right here. This is called the long wave trough. Let me give you sort of an example of what I'm talking about here in a global scale. Okay, so let's get this up. Let's do a longer loop here. You're gonna have to bear with me for a second. Is this the whole globe here? Full disc? Yeah, full disc. All right, and I'm gonna give you a longer term image. This is a loop to show you something. This is the long wave trough ridge pattern, and it extends across the entire planet, especially the mid-latitudes in the northern and southern hemisphere. Okay, the long wave trough ridge pattern is lasts for days and weeks in some cases. Okay, it does not move back up. It is a much larger area that it covers, and it governs the movement of our storm systems and our weather across the mid-latitudes in the northern hemisphere. Because this long wave trough is in place over the eastern U.S., there is really not a non-zero chance. It's never non-zero, but very, very, very probable, and we can only speak in probabilities here in meteorology, but this pattern is not going to change dramatically in the span of a couple of days. It just doesn't do that. And the models are very good at picking up on this bigger picture. We call it the synoptic scale in meteorology, big picture, right? Patterns and movements, because the bigger the picture, the easier it is for the model to predict. The resolution required for the long wave ridge trough pattern, I didn't draw this perfectly, but it's pretty much that, what I drew, is lower resolution than if we tried to zero in on like a particular city and tell you, is it going to rain in 7 days or 10 days? It's much more difficult to predict that type of resolution, that type of scale, where you're magnifying in to a very small area where the amount of resolution required to predict the weather in that area is beyond the capabilities of even our fastest supercomputers. But with this particular pattern, it's much easier for the models to predict that. So my answer to your question is no. This will not take a dramatic left turn and defy the laws of physics and in this with this storm. Okay? Now, again, that's my opinion. It's a not there's never a non-zero chance of anything, but that this particular trough, and some people call it a front. There's a front here, a cold front, that sometimes they confuse the things that govern the movements of upper level systems. Cold fronts are at the surface because it's cold at the surface. It's a front of cold air at the surface. But a trough is an upper level feature. It is a way up in the 30, 40,000 feet up there where the jet stream is type of altitude. Okay? Those upper level troughs and ridges determine the motion of all of our storm systems here in the mid-latitudes on Earth. Okay? And so again, because this is such a deep amplitude trough, see how big that U is there? It's going to continue to move off. It's unlikely this trough will flatten out too much. And even if it does, and this system does come maybe a little closer in to the U.S., it's still going to get picked up eventually and moved offshore. So, and now if this wasn't there, yes, the chances would be there for some type of dramatic change in the track. But my experience and my knowledge of meteorology tells me that this system will be no threat to land. And that's why, or at least to the U.S., that's why these models are picking up on that motion, because they track that type of those types of weather features. Okay, they do track those features, and they then make their prediction. Now again, if that trough flattens out a little bit, yeah, sure, it could come in a little closer to the U.S., but you notice this is one of the spaghetti models. So this is one particular scenario. But look at how many other scenarios predict an offshore storm. The vast majority of those scenarios predict that long wave trough pattern will come in, pick up this storm, and move it out to sea. Again, may affect, parts of New England, as a high wind and rain event, maybe some strong, some high seas and some surf. Maybe it probably will impact Newfoundland, Nova Scotia. I'm sorry, Nova Scotia, right? No. Yeah, that's Nova Scotia, I think. Anyway, I'm not the greatest with my geography for Canada. I didn't have to deal with it when I was in the Navy because we were doing the U.S. But anyway, may impact Canada and what am I? Is it Nova Scotia? Help me out here, guys. I think that's Nova Scotia. Nova Scotia. Anyway, may impact that area as a high wind and rain event and some strong surf and rough surf up there, but not nearly to the extent that a tropical hurricane, like a Category 5 hurricane, not that type of damage. not at all. And look where this Euro, which is a very accurate model in my experience. I tend to heavily rely on the Euro model, the ECMWF here, because of my experience and just how accurate it is. But you notice the black line, which is the mean or the average track of all the ensembles, doesn't even threaten land, really. Maybe a little bit up here in Newfoundland. But by then it'll be it won't be a tropical system. It'll just be a traditional cold front, warm front, mid latitude cyclone, as they're called, baroclinic system. In meteorology, I'm showing off, I guess, but there is a difference between a warm core tropical system and a cold core, cold front, warm front, traditional low pressure system, and that would be what would threaten potentially these areas. But again, that's not nearly as much of an impact as a hurricane. Nova Scotia, yeah, Nova Scotia's this one. Right. And Elizabeth just sent me some stars. Thank you, Elizabeth. Bravo Zulu to you. Thank you for your support. If you like what you're seeing, please share this video. Please like this video. Please comment on this video. I'm also on YouTube again, or I stream on YouTube, so like and share and subscribe to the Bearded Weatherman there on YouTube as well. I think that I've pretty well covered this storm. I will mention one other thing as far as your long range outlook, which is of course also what people want to know about. I'm going to go with the Euro because that's the one I always rely on, and it just seems like it's usually the best one. Not always perfect, but definitely my experience tells me it is. You see there's Lee right there looking like it's coming towards the U.S., but then maybe at some point, well, this is we got to get into the 12Z run, and then it starts to move off. Here's another storm out here, probably another hurricane. I don't even know. Let's see. These are fish storms out here. Yeah, Margot, tropical storm Margot, and again you see Margot heads very safely out to sea, many thousands of miles from the U.S. I don't see, and then there's no other 7-day. The 7-day outlook from the National Hurricane Center does not predict another storm to threaten. Here's your 7-day, right? Or another, I should say, another tropical system to develop within that time frame. And again, I can go out a little further than 7 days because I have the Euro up here. Here's Margot. Here's Lee. Don't see anything. 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 Margot moving a little bit closer over here. Let's see what the GFS does with Margot. Doesn't even take Margot. There's Lee. There's Margot. Takes Margot safely out to sea. So, there you go. Long range. And if you don't believe me, why don't you try and we'll look at the Climate Prediction Center. If you don't believe me, you want to look at just the National Weather Service, we can do that. We have the capability, we have the power. See what this says here. There we go. And we'll get this graphic up, and here we go. Valid September 13th through 19th, that's next week. Potential development over here, but that's Margot. Then experimental even further out. Maybe some more development out there in the Atlantic. And how do they determine that? Well, here's something cool that I'll show you. This is a climate model. Let's bring it up to the world level here. Let's see if it does it. Does it do it there? Yeah. No, it doesn't do it there. Hold on one second. I've shown this model before. Here's our longer range model. Kind of get the world in play here. Here we go. I'm gonna go up dynamics. Let's look at the. This is okay. We're gonna have to go back a little further, but that's okay. This is a longer range model. This is for 2 weeks from now. And you see lots of sinking air. These negative or positive values indicate sinking air. These negative values indicate rising air. So all the energy's over here in the Pacific right now. Now there is some, as you see over here, there is some areas of more neutral. 0, here is white, meaning that there is some indications of some rising air. And of course, we need rising air for hurricanes and thunderstorms to develop, right? And I got a guy who's giving me a little bit of grief in the YouTube chat, but that's okay. We got rid of that message. Let's see. Yeah, there's definitely a little bit of spam going on. It's unfortunately part of the deal here. But anyway, we ignore that. Those are just trolls. They're going to be going to the basement as they always do. Alright. So you notice a little bit of that environment where maybe you get a little bit of rising air over here. This is for next week, so potentially that. Then you see going out to 2 weeks from now, a little bit of some favorable conditions out here in the Atlantic. This is for 2 weeks, the 21st, and then going out towards the end of, here's October 5th, beginning of October. We could see some favorable conditions setting up over here more towards the U.S., the Gulf. So green values, again, negative values indicate rising air, and that is, of course, what we need for thunderstorms, for weather, right? Rising air. But that's a longer range forecast. Take that with a grain of salt. But that I just wanted to show you that because that is where the Climate Prediction Center actually gets their information as far as their particular forecasts. Let's see if that even shows up on here. I think it does. They have that on this page. Yeah, there it is. See? That's the 26th, so the red areas, see the red, some probability for formation. They don't go quite out as far as October, so maybe down the road we'll see more of this probability there. But you see again, next week, that area out in the Atlantic, some probability for some development, and then experimental because we're going way far out. A couple weeks now here for there. You see again same probability based on that model I just showed you, which is a climate model that measures the Madden-Julian oscillation, which is a measurement of. Okay, here it is again in another sort of way presented. This is an oscillation between two areas of the tropics, the tropical, or I should say the western Pacific and the tropical equatorial Pacific and the Atlantic. And there's an oscillation that happens between these two areas. So when there's rising air over here, air tends to sink over here on this side of the planet, and you can see how that moves west to east, right? See the green's there, now it's over. Going that way, now it's there, now it's there, now it's there. So if you look at this, this could potentially be end of September, early October. That Madden-Julian oscillation could end up moving more over towards the Atlantic again. And again, that would indicate the potential for rising air and potential tropical weather. Again, the Madden-Julian oscillation, very important. And this is all related to physics, and I'm going to close it down because this video has gone quite a while. Hopefully I reassured you, based on meteorology, why I don't think that Hurricane Lee will be a threat to the U.S. But this is physics. Madden-Julian oscillation. We're oscillating energy distribution between two areas of the world. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Newton's third law, very important principle in physics, right? And a very important principle in thermodynamics. Don't ask me, it's been a while since I memorized which particular law of thermodynamics it is, but one of the laws of thermodynamics is that energy can be neither created nor destroyed. It has to go somewhere. Okay, you can't just remove energy from, at least not that we know of, from the universe. That energy must be redistributed somewhere else. And across the planet, that energy gets redistributed in different regions. So this is also it's called teleconnections in meteorology. El Nino is a very important teleconnection. It greatly influences the weather over the U.S., right? And so we are expecting a wetter. Actually, I can show you that real quick, and I'll shut down again. Obviously, I can talk about weather forever. I love weather. I love science, so I can talk about it. But I can show you this graphic for, and it's not there. Where'd it go? I had it. There it is. There it is. Okay. This will tell you. Now we're going real long range, right? Into where's my winner? There it is. Is that it? Yeah, you can kind of see that. Anyway, El Nino impacts, and we are in an El Nino type of regime now. Typically mean. There's my key right there. All right. Typically means cool and wet area for the southern. Oh, geez, this pen. For the southeast, for the southern parts of the U.S., cooler and wetter conditions typically during an El Nino year. As you can see, wetter conditions for the Southwest in general for El Nino. This is El Nino, December. This is winter time, okay? Wintertime impacts. And generally going to be warmer for areas of southern Alaska, southeastern Alaska, into British Columbia, and parts of even closer to where I'm at here in Utah, down into Montana and the Dakotas. And so typically a little bit warmer on average, and therefore a little bit less snowfall than on average. So bad news for skiers maybe, although certainly this doesn't mean there won't be snow. But generally it's cooler and wetter in the southeast, and this can sometimes lead to some snow events in the southeast. I wouldn't hazard to guess again, we're way long range here, so this is average weather. But maybe North Carolina, maybe even down into Georgia, you could see maybe some snow events that typically don't occur for the winter time of there, of course. Okay? Hopefully I reassured you. Again, one more time. If you like what you're seeing, please like the video. Please react to the video. Please share with friends. Please, if you're on YouTube, subscribe. Share with friends on YouTube as well. Want to get this information out to the folks who need it the most. And of course, once again, if you want to support the page like Elizabeth and Jillian were doing so well tonight, and we appreciate that, go ahead and you can send some stars on the video as well.